vision and where we want to go in the future. I went to the National Convention in St. Louis this year, and they're having the same kinds of discussions on the national level. And so I attended a clinic put on by John Doring, who is one of the directors of one of the high levels of the organization. His contact information is at the end of this, so you'll see it. Just kind of to hear what he was going to say, and about 3 slides into it, I realized that he really had some good stuff, and so I started taking pictures of his slides. And so I'm going to go over some of that stuff and tell you what appears to be happening on the national level as near as I can tell. And then after that, I've got some questions for us to talk about here on the Eastern Iowa Division. So let me get started on this. So part of what John was, I missed the first 2 or 3 slides, but part of what he was talking about is if we imagine what the NMRA would be like if it was 10 times larger than it is now, where it would be truly international across all regions, have 150,000 members, 10,000 master model railroaders, 50,000 AP participants, global diversity in scales and other things, extraordinary social connectivity and fellowship, core standards that benefit all, a go-to source for education, learning, and advancement, capturing the imagination of the next generation and building model trains to build better human beings. And so he came up with this framework for aligning in action, which comes kind of out of the business world. I think that's what he is. I think he's a business consultant. So you start out with your values and principles. From there, you develop a mission, you have a vision, a strategy, and you have an action. And he says what's in the middle, what's deepest on the inside should almost never change. What's closest to the surface must change regularly. And that's kind of what this is all about, is how do you do that? So some of the societal headwinds that we face today, there's fewer younger people than before. It's not as instinctive for them to join outside organizations. There may be less discretionary money, space, and time. They have a shorter attention span, so they need more alternatives. And those of you who have grandkids know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a generational disconnect in terms of interest, attitudes, and communications. And then there's a need for leadership, social, and people skills development, basically on all levels. So he came up with this 10-point manifesto for the NMRA in 2030. And the first point of his 10-point manifesto is to seek first to understand, and that is, I don't remember what the connection with all the weird animals was, but the idea was that before you try to solve a problem, you really need to understand the problem. And if we have a problem with membership in the NMRA, or the activities, we need to understand why we have that problem. The second thing is to dream big, but to do small. So, he's dreaming about what the NMRA might look like in 2030 with 150,000 members, but we're not going to get there in one big jump. We have to do that in small increments. And here's a little bridge that looks like a bunch of ants have made, so that's probably the queen can walk across it. So we need to be thinking about that on the local level, that the change in the NMRA is not going to come from the top down, it's going to come from the bottom up. Speak with your boots. I think you've all heard this or some version of it before, walk the talk. Go do something, okay? Don't talk about it, go do something. Learn to trust and then learn to learn. So I think that's part of the issue, as I see it with the NMRA, is do we trust what other folks are doing? And how do we learn to learn more from other people? It's a key component of any kind of a change effort that we're going to make. How will you see my art? If you think of model railroading as an art, and I do, is it that we make the art for ourselves, or we make the art for others to see and view and enjoy? Listen close, but take care. So listening close is you know, you need to very carefully listen to what people are saying, but on the bottom you see a bunch of trolls. And, you know, there are a lot of trolls out there in the world, and sometimes the trolls are more noisy than the people who actually care about things. So you gotta be careful of who you listen to, I guess, is his point in this. And make sure that you're listening to their true population and not necessarily the squeaky wheels or the trolls that might be out there. Assume people have noble intent. I'm not sure what that has to do with this. You've all seen this little thing where you send a ball running and send the other one off the other end. But when you're talking to somebody, assume that people are doing it for the right reasons, the good reasons, and not necessarily for some nefarious kind of reason, until proven otherwise anyway. This is a hobby, not a job. And if you turn it into a job, it becomes much less fun. So we have to try to keep it on the fun level. This, I think, is the most important slide in the whole presentation. Fun is too easy. How about joy? It's not that model railroading is fun, it's that model railroading brings joy. And I've had a number of experiences like that in my role at the Hawkeye Club of the public relations officer. So that's an appointed position. I didn't show up for a meeting one day, that's what happens. And I'm the public contact person, so if you use one of our contact methods, that information comes to me. I could tell you a lot of stories about this. I'm going to tell you just two quick ones. The first one is that over the last 6 months, I have been contacted by probably a dozen people who say, I'm trying to dispose of my father's, husband's, whatever, estate and his model trains. I don't want to throw them in the dumpster. They brought him so much joy, I want someone else to be able to enjoy that. I've heard that almost every time I get contacted by somebody, that's the story they give me, okay? So the hobby does bring a lot of people joy. Second story is that after the train show, because I was also train show chair, I got a call the next day from a guy who said, I just wanted to let you know I attended your train show yesterday. I bought some stuff for my son, my grandson. We're gonna build a layout together. Thanks for holding that train show. We were really happy to be able to do that. Again, bringing joy to people. And it's not about the trains, it's about the people. I think that's gonna come up here. So I really like that idea that model railroading is about bringing joy, not only to ourselves, but to our families and to others. And if the general population recognizes that, if people can say, model railroading brought my loved one joy, how powerful is that? And how do we say that's what we really should be about? We should be about spreading joy in the population. So you come to the NMRA to learn and you stay to teach. And my own personal journey in the NMRA is that way. I joined the NMRA because I wanted to learn, and then I transitioned to doing some teaching. To understand that the NMRA is not an organization, it's a bunch of people, a group of people, and it's a diverse group of people. I thought one of the most interesting things, and again, two parts here. First interesting thing is that you may have seen they're forming a special interest group of women in model railroading, which I think is long overdue, and I thought that was neat. I spent a lot of time in the state of Oregon over the last couple of years. My son, who lives out there, is going through a difficult time, and so my wife and I have been going out there frequently, spending a couple of weeks at a time out there to support him. And well, the last trip I was out there was in November, and we were there over the Thanksgiving holiday. And so there is a club in downtown Portland, the Columbia Gorge Model Railroad Club. You can find it online. It's a beautiful club. So on the Saturday after Thanksgiving, I said to Ann, hey, nothing's going on with the kids and grandkids today. Let's go down to the Model Railroad Club and hang out there for a little while. So we did that. And I happened to get the VIP tour, one of the members finding out that I was at the Hawkeye Club and so on, said, well, let me show you the insides, and I got to see that. And then at the end, I got to meet the president of the Columbia Gorge Club, and that club has been in business for 40-some years, okay? And her name is, okay, I think it was Cynthia Leonard. She was there in her bib overalls and the whole 9 yards, okay? Female president. So I asked her if she was involved with that group in the NMRA, and she said yes, but she was, okay? Hawkeye Club has a female member. We've had actually on and off female members for pretty much our whole existence, right? So we gotta stop thinking about the NMRA as a bunch of older men, okay? And start thinking about young people. How do we get the young people involved? How do we get women involved? Again, our experience at the Hawkeye Club, and I have to tell you what my experience is, okay? At the Hawkeye Club is we get young guys involved with it, and then the moms come along, okay? Not so much the dads, but the moms. And the moms really get into it. So there's interest there. So think about the NMRA more broadly than the 8 or 9 old men that are sitting around in this room. And if you're under the age of 50, I apologize. And then people first train second, okay? And if the NMRA focuses on the people, how do we bring joy to people? The trains will come naturally. That's just a vehicle for achieving that. So that was basically John's story. He's, I guess, the Eastern Director on a national level. I've tried to reach out to him. I called him a couple times. I've emailed him a couple times that I wanted to talk about this with him. He did get back to me and said, I'm really busy. Twice he set up times when he was going to call him and never did. I'm going to not accuse him of anything on that. I know he's still working. I think he travels a lot in business. So be that as it may, I think he'll eventually get back to me. Because I wanted to find out where this is going in the 3 or 4 months. Now, although this was one guy talking about this, Gordy Robinson was there at the meeting, at the session, okay? Gordy Robinson is the president of the NMRA. So, and I talked to Gordy a little bit afterwards. I really like him. I really was engaged with him. He's I wouldn't say a breath of fresh air to the NMRA. And he is behind this. So I don't know exactly what's going on the national level. I'm not plugged into the national level politics. But I think this is the direction. And it's not going to happen overnight. It'll take some time. But I think there is a movement along these lines. Okay, so questions. What's the National Model Railroad Association EID value proposition? What do you get for your $68 a year? And that's a question I'd like people to ponder for a minute and answer. What do you get? Why are you here today?
You looking for answers?
Yes, I'm looking for it.
Okay. I get access to the NMRA program.
Okay. Bob, are you going to be able to capture these? You want me to capture it?
Are we still recording?
Yeah, we're recording.
I can review the
Yeah.
records to get anything.
That's right. We're gonna put that out on the YouTube. Okay.
Fellowship,
Fellowship. Okay.
and exchange of ideas.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna second that. I think that's a real important part of recruitment and the environment that you work in. It's the people that you interact with and being able to share your hobby with others. You hear about the lone wolves out there that are doing stuff, and that's fine, but I think you really get a lot more out of the hobby if you're with a group of some common, people that have a common interest and enjoy it. And so I think the personal interactions with everyone is really important.
There's a wealth of knowledge that you tap into. Like I was researching a problem of a project, and Bob's office is around the corner from me, and so we'll go and draw on each other's board of things that we're dealing with. His was a hole, mine was a coal car. And so having that friendship, that camaraderie, means that I have people that if they might know something about what I'm trying to do. And so there's a wealth of knowledge to tap into there that you can't find anywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what, things like that are what everyone was struggling with for the last couple of years. We had online meetings, but we didn't really have much interaction beyond the formal agenda. We didn't have that cross-pollination of ideas, that fellowship, that those hallway conversations per se that, are inspiring and enlightening. So I'm glad we're back to an in-person meeting format.
So I would have seconded that. Back in the days when I was working at the university, we used to call those sessions thinking out loud. And my department had a hallway where all the people were scattered in offices around the hallway. And we had an open door policy, which was you keep your door open unless there's something that has to be kept private, okay? That was the boss's rule. So people would wander to other people's offices and say, hey, you got a second? I've been thinking about this. And the whiteboard scribbling would start. And sometimes it would happen on big post-it notes out in the hallway. They'd be left up there because people would come around and write on it. That really is a very, very valuable, it's a proven valuable creative tool. So that's excellent. Thank you for bringing that up. Question is, how do we get that to happen more often than 3 or 4 times a year, I think, okay? Anything else? Anyone else want to throw something in terms of what they think their value proposition is to the ID, for the ID? Chris?
Well, I've got the digital version now. I've got a login and stuff, but I haven't really spent a lot of time on it,
I think the value for me is because I haven't, I pursued getting a bit more of the online access. And what I really find valuable from the NMRA side is being able as a member to go in and access those video presentations that were at a clinic or at a meeting or something that I wasn't able to attend. And you can go down and say, gee, I'm really interested in how do I install a decoder or something. I'm just picking that out of the air. And you can look at those videos and yeah, they're like we're doing here, and you get some insight, you get some knowledge transfer. And those are really valuable. And you can read all the books and magazines you want, but that access to those video presentations to me is a very valuable resource that is worth double, triple or 4 times the amount I pay for a membership.
Just like you said, you were commenting earlier, we're artists. Well, and you think about that, think of the mediums that we use. Yes, there's art as far as the scenery, but you got the art of electronics, you've got the art of operations, you've got the art, all of that. And now that, being able to access this, it's just, now instead of talking to 8 or 9 guys with the electronic, especially with the electronic, now that just blossomed. And if you've had a problem, or if you've got a question or struggle with something, or didn't know the answer, somebody else out there, even with outside of the group here, they may have well experienced it.
Okay.
I had an issue with trying to decide, I was trying to build a snow shed. And I had a picture of a snow shed, and it had this A-frame in the middle of it. And I had no idea why they used the A-frame there. And nobody I knew the answer to that. And I called the NMRA library and got a hold of the main librarian at that point. And I asked him the question. He told me, that's where the switch is. You can't put a post in the middle of the switch. And I had no, it just didn't dawn on me. But that, in that regard, the NMRA definitely proved their worth for the $68 because they was able to call in and talk to somebody to get some information.
Okay.
Can you hand me another piece of paper?
Sure.
Jim, you're next.
We're talking too much.
No, this is
No, I'm
exactly.
kidding.
Exactly.
Bob's trying to get his own.
You just help yourself, Bob, it's a terrible idea. Jim, go ahead.
I guess one of the reasons, or the main reason I'm here today was to decide whether to re-up for next year. I enjoyed, and I thought it was worthwhile having the video meetings and stuff like that, except they started to run out of things, ideas and like that. I get the magazine, I enjoy that. I've used the archives to get some plans for cars and stuff. And I guess my thing is, I've started stuff, but it's kind of like, okay, I got a question about this, and it's, well, I guess I'll just look around in the magazines, and it'd be nice to have some way of, you know, I know you wouldn't be able to do it, but it'd be nice to have, like, once a month, a meeting or something, and people talking, and, you know, come in and say, hey, I got this, what do you do with this? I think we had that back in our meetings before this COVID crap hit. And with the COVID thing, that went away. I guess that's what I'm looking for, is more interaction with members. And I hate to say something, but
Please be open and honest, okay? You can't defend me.
I just felt that we were missing that the last couple of years, not the COVID years, but before that.
For that, okay.
And it was kind of like, oh, yeah, well, what, you know, being looked down upon. And, I mean, you're talking about getting new people in, you're gonna have people that will ask dumb questions, a lot of questions and stuff like that. You know, that's, I decided to come, I went back and forth and went, geez, you know, 60-something, is that really worth it? You know, and I still haven't sent the check in, but, you know, that's why I'm here today, to see what direction we're headed. The direction that, and I'll say this, I don't know how long I've been in this, but I volunteered to work on a project with Al, and it was somebody, a revision of our organization, this was years ago, and started reading it and went, what the hell's going on? And I talked to Al, and he says, don't worry about it, this is not going anywhere. It seems like we get a new president in, and all of a sudden, we're going this way, and we're headed off this way. Now, what you showed, I'm happy with it. I mean, I think we have to establish a direction and keep going, instead of, well, we're doing this, we want to do this, we want to head this way, and then 2 years, another guy comes in, and all of a sudden, oh, yeah. That's,
Let me share my thoughts, kind of build on that. I mean, in any volunteer organization, you have a framework where you have a national, you have a regional, you have club level. This is a club level meeting, a division meeting. National and regional may set policy. They may throw out some ideas to build membership or to promote ideas, but at the club level are where everything happens. As director, I've tried to reach out to other folks to tell them, you know, we exist. You know, we are a format, we are an educational organization. We want to build knowledge. We want people to come in and have fellowship. We want to exchange those ideas. You know, we want to promote achievement. That's my vision. That's what I've been trying to promote since I became director. So I'm hoping that you're all going to help me build at the club level, to build our membership, to build our success, to turn, to continue the EID down the path of a place for open ideas, fellowship, and knowledge and achievement.
another question I have, this COVID thing got me to thinking about it, and then realizing I'm getting old. One of these days, you know, the driver's license guy is gonna go, I don't think we're gonna re-up you, you know.
Mm-hmm.
This, video thing, I noticed when it started, of course, we had a good number of people, and then as we went, you know, month to month, we started getting down, but I noticed some older, I'm old, but some really older guys on it that I think probably can't attend the meetings. And I thought, oh, this is working out for them. So, I don't know, you know, you look around, and I'm probably the leader of the who's gonna be next routine, but, you know, and just having cataract surgery, you go, God, you know, I wouldn't be able to drive to, you know, meetings and stuff like that. There are probably some guys that are still interested in this stuff, but they can't, you know, be here and that type of thing. And we're thinking about the younger guys, but we're kind of talking about, you know, we gotta, you know, get the young people and all that. We may be leaving some of the older people in the dust. I don't know, you know.
Do you have any suggestions on the best way to reach out to those older folks? I know we've had virtual meetings before, and attendance was not much larger than what we have right here. I mean, it'd be anywhere from 6 to 12 people. So even the older folks, the people you see on the roster but never hear much from, they're still not there. So I'm open for ideas.
Yeah, you know, like I said, I think it was our first video thing, and I noticed, I hate to keep using the term, this older guy and his wife was, you know, operating the computer, you know, oh, here's the volume, you know, that type of thing. I saw him about 2 times later, and then, you know, attendance on the video started to go down. I would say, you know, I was thinking about it and I thought, well, maybe you could set it up so people could get like this meeting live on the video. But then you're probably gonna cut down on your attendance for, you know, somebody going, well, shit, I'm not gonna drive 30 miles. I can stay home and watch it on the video. But, you know, it'd be nice to be able to, you know, see it on video. So if you can't get into, you know, you can't drive anymore, or you're laid up with a broken hip or something like that, you can see what's going on. I don't know.
Well, that certainly is technologically possible. I would have to look, in my working days, I participated in plenty of those kinds of sessions. We can certainly look into that, okay?
You know, the thing is, it could be a request thing. Send out a thing and, you know, say, if you're, you know, bedridden for some reason, or if you can't drive, you can request that we hook up a video for you, and, you know, if you have a computer, you can sit in on the meetings or something. But like I said, I don't know.
So, I mean, there's, just to briefly diverge into the technology, there's 2 ways I know of doing that, or 3 ways, okay? One is there's an app called Zoom that you can use, and I've got that on my iPad, where everybody is virtual. The other thing you can do is you can live stream on YouTube. So I'm just recording this, and I'm gonna post it up to YouTube, because I have a YouTube channel. And then I'll send out the link. It's a private one, so you have to have the link in order to be able to see it if you're not familiar with how YouTube works. I'll send out the link, you'll be able to see this. But we could certainly live stream this on YouTube, and then and only send the link to people say, I can't be there in person, can you send me the YouTube link?
Yeah, that'd be,
Okay.
That'd be cool.
And then if they want to participate in the meeting, they do it through the comments. So you have to have somebody who's monitoring the comments to do that, but that's certainly an option.
You could have somebody getting ready to receive text messages while you're
Yeah.
transmitting the message.
Yep.
We've had Zoom meetings also to where we had a core group of people that were in the meeting room.
Conference room, yeah, yeah.
And remote people as well.
Mhm.
And so they were able to participate voice-wise, ask questions live.
Yeah.
And so Zoom is capable of doing that as well. We've done that at work many times for different groups, because we'll have two groups. We'll have a group in Japan and a group in the United States, and having to have a meeting between the two sets. And so we've done that, and that Zoom is quite capable of doing that too.
Yeah, the one
I'm
hang
just
up
not
with Zoom is.
sure if you can record a Zoom for future review, like if you do something on YouTube that is there until they take it down, or.
Right, the only problem with YouTube is I don't think you can have audio participation, but I don't know that you can't or could
Well,
record
it depends
Zoom.
on how your meeting room is set up. If you have a camera and a microphone, that is possible.
And you also, just on a side for Zoom, don't get to you, Mike. Zoom is free for the first, for 40, you're limited to 45 minutes, okay?
Mm,
After that, you have to buy a Zoom, if you wanna do longer than that, you have to buy a Zoom license.
mm.
It's not out of the question, there may be a nonprofit's license, I don't know all the ins and outs of that. We could certainly look into that, Mike.
Well, I think the key is what Jim brought up, for the people that want it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we had Zoom meetings, we had people signing in for stuff like that, but if it's for the people that can't get here, that do want to participate, if you have it out there, if you do, let us know, and we will have it set up so that you can either live stream it or catch a YouTube later on.
Okay,
That
great.
way they will have to make an effort to, do they want to see this, or are they just going to jump in on it?
When we talk about fellowship, we also, you know, that means, like, if you're going somewhere, like Larry, I called Larry and said, hey, I'm gonna go over to the meeting, you wanna go? And sure, so, you know, we can't carpool in the United States, I know we're not used to it, but.
This is my first meeting back after a long hiatus, but we used to move this meeting around too. We've had it in Davenport, we've had it in Cedar Rapids, we've had it in different facilities, so people that are can't get out as much could go short distances.
Mhm.
And we've had people show up in Bettendorf when we've done it in Bettendorf that couldn't get to Coralville or Cedar Rapids. Is the meeting still moved, or is it only here in Coralville now?
No, it's here because nobody else offered another option, and I could get this room for free.
Okay, no, I'm just asking, I don't
Yeah.
know.
I'm willing to travel anywhere in the division to have a meeting, okay? But I'm limited in terms of, I don't know where all the venues are in the Quad Cities, you know, I know you had a library. I think,
Yeah, we did the library,
you know,
The library in Bettendorf worked really well.
yeah, but that's been a number of years ago.
Mhm.
And we've done that, we've done it.
We did Belle Plaine.
Belle Plaine.
Yeah, when I was superintendent last time, we did Belle
And then
Plaine a couple times.
we've been up there to your area a couple times.
We did the West Liberty Depot one
Right.
time.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah.
I'm just raising that as another, because that does allow people that can't travel a long distance, if it's close every once in a while, they'll make that, because we did have people show up in Bettendorf that I'd never seen before.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm great with that idea. I'm willing to travel anywhere in the division to do that. But again, I don't know where all the venues are. If you can suggest a venue and say, here's a venue, here's the contact information,
Right.
I'll be happy to follow up and, because, you know, here, to get this place was, I went on the website and I think I filled out an online application, and they emailed me back and they said, you gotta sign it. I said, I can't sign it electronically. And I was in Oregon actually when this was going on. And she said, that's okay, when you get back in town, stop by the library and sign the thing. And I did. That's all it took to get this, okay?
Well, I think the combination of the Zoom meeting, along with maybe moving it, may get both, because if we do it in Bettendorf, people that are in West Liberty might not be able to travel that far,
Mhm.
and they could Zoom it then, or, you know,
Yep.
I think that's a great idea, I really do.
Okay? That's
Well,
what I'm
if
looking
it's this small, you know, if you have it less than a dozen, you could almost do it at home too. Depends on what you're doing.
Yep.
It ought to be you have to request it, I think, instead of, you know, every one of our meetings is on Zoom. I would think in order to save hassle and people doing stuff and finding out that it wasn't used, if you can, you know, say, our meeting is gonna be out at Belle Plaine next time. If you can attend, call so-and-so to get it, you know, set up a Zoom. You know, that way you get ready to have the meeting, nobody's called, hey.
Okay. All right, any other folks wanna comment on what do you get for your $68 a year?
On that note, personally, I don't really need the calendar. I don't use it, I give it to my grandkids, because I don't use it.
Yeah, but the counter's not for you to use, the counter's for you to send money to the NMRA, so.
I'm very much aware of that.
Anything else?
I have another question.
Sure.
I don't, good thing this thing isn't on Zoom. How much do the higher ups, can they step in and tell like whoever's in control of our division, no, you ought to be doing this? We seem to have conflicts and people resigning because of conversations with higher ups. Is that par for the course where they go, oh no, you only had 2 meetings this year, you should have 4 and stuff? I mean, that's my question. It's like the last couple of years, it's like, what the hell is going on?
No one's ever told me, I
No, I
can't do anything.
mean, the NMRA sets up a framework, and regional sets up a framework, but we have our own bylaws. So we set up the bylaws around what we want to do within the NMRA framework. But as division activities are largely up to us as a group.
Yeah, I've been director, I've been superintendent of a couple of different divisions, and I've never had interference from national or the regional for what we wanted to do at the local level. And I've been at the regional level too, so it just doesn't happen.
I think some of the difficulties we had earlier were due to other factors.
Chris, you have something else?
No, next.
Anything else before I move on to the next slide? We have a couple more questions for you. This has been great. Really appreciate this conversation. All right. I want to spend a couple minutes talking, and we've already sort of touched on some of this, talking about inward or outward organizations. So, in my view, organizations can be either inward-facing or outward-facing. And inward-facing organizations exist primarily for the benefit of the members. And the knowledge of the organization is very limited outside of the membership. There are often high social barriers to entry. The organizations often have a narrow focus. They're usually governed by norms rather than by explicit rules. And it's generally not known what they do outside of the organization. So examples of inward-facing organizations are like clubs, like card clubs. You know, some people belong to these card clubs, or a bridge club where you go play cards at somebody's house every week. Investment clubs. My sister belongs to an investment club where they talk about how they're going to invest their money. Model railroad clubs, in some cases, okay, are very inward focused, right? We also have outward-facing organizations. And outward-facing organizations exist for the benefit of the general population or some subset. There's a broad knowledge of the existence of that organization, very low barriers to entry. Focus can be either wide or narrow depending on the organization. They're usually governed by some sort of a constitution, bylaws, or written rules, and they're known for what they do. So examples of outward-facing organizations, the Red Cross, Salvation Army, most churches, the Lions, the Rotaries, all those kinds of clubs are outward-facing organizations, okay? They exist not just for their own benefit, they get it, but they also exist for the general societal benefit. This is not a black and white thing, it's this continuum or a spectrum. So, inward-facing, outward-facing, where do organizations fit on that spectrum? Where do you think the NMRA fits on that spectrum? Is it more of an outward-facing organization or an inward-facing organization?
When it's focused on education and public service, it's on the outward facing. If it starts looking inward to only things for model railroading, it becomes inward facing, and that becomes a downturn in membership, definitely.
So where is it today?
I think it's towards the outward facing.
You think it's towards outward? Okay.
I think it's toward outward.
All right, anybody else wanna,
That leaning that way, that's their intentions.
that's the intentions, okay?
Yeah, I think it's been inward facing for a long time, and I think they're trying to force it to go outward.
Okay. What about the Eastern Iowa Division?
We're definitely too inward facing.
Too inward facing, anybody else think that?
Well, that's what I felt also, because, you know, I'm trying to get some new interests, new people involved, and we've been kind of a close-knit group that hasn't expanded much. You look at our roster from month to month to month, it hasn't changed for a number of years. So I think in order to grow, in order to continue to be viable, we have to continue to bring in new people, new ideas, new interaction.
Well, I think the thing like what Bob did at the show doing tree clinic is exactly the kind of thing we need to do to show that we are educational. We'll teach people how to do the different things that allows them to grow within the hobby. So, I mean, it's still hobby focused, but there's so many facets to what we can show. History, the modeling aspect, there's just a lot of branches within the NMRA, even the EID, or I'd put MCOR in there as well, that they definitely, and I like being an outward-facing educational, showing people, helping other people grow. That's the way we grow.
So how much on this, for this discussion and this presentation right now, how much do you wanna talk about this at the moment?
As much as you want to, I'm here to
Okay,
listen.
so here's, you know, I like the idea what Bob did also with the trees and stuff. My question
That's why I'm
to you
here.
is, are other people, now I'm up for having, he or whoever is sitting there doing a clinic or interacting as a NMR, EID, NMRA person, you know, if, I don't have a problem if they hand my name out, say, this, in our case, Quad Cities, you know, this guy's local, he's an NMRA member, if you wanna talk to him or visit with him, or, you know, come and see his layout or whatever, you know, I'm open to that. I don't know how many other people would be, but it's something, because at a show, you're one of potentially hundreds of stops, you know, and it's quote-unquote information overload. Now, obviously, you know, when they come and visit me, and, you know, I need to show them what I got, but I also I should probably have some material to help, you know, get them more excited and more information on the NMRA. That's just an idea.
Eric?
Do we have to have dues? I mean, not for us, we can pay,
Yeah,
but, like our buddy William, I mean, how old is William?
Well,
11 years old.
okay.
There is a youth membership.
yeah.
Okay, well, even his folks don't have a lot of money to do this, but they're very interested in trains.
So let me address that, and Bob, you can chime in afterwards, and I think you're aware of this too. This was a, for me, a huge sticking point for the NMRA that I think has been resolved, okay? So there's two issues. The first issue is the age, and the second issue are the dues, right? So on the age issue, 2 or 3 years ago, the NMRA just all of a sudden came out and said, you cannot have anybody under the age of 18 in your meetings, period. End of story,
Wow.
okay? And they came out with that because, anybody in this room a lawyer? Okay. Because the lawyers at the top saw what happened in the Boy Scouts, where the Boy Scouts got sued into bankruptcy, basically, because there had been some abuse going on at Boy Scout meetings, okay? And they said, we don't want that to happen, we don't want anybody suing us out of existence, okay? No people under the age of 18 at meetings, period, end of story, okay? that stuck in my craw because the Hawkeye Club has thrived in part because we had a junior membership program. It was such that you couldn't even hold this meeting in the Hawkeye Club's space because the Hawkeye Club allowed youth, okay?
That's no longer true.
That is no longer true, that has been rescinded, okay?
Can we find that person and put them in prison?
Well,
Railroad prison.
let's not go there.
Let's not
I'm
go,
kidding.
okay?
The one month is all.
Yeah, let's not go there, okay? That has since been rescinded, right?
Good.
And the new rule is you have to have a parent or an adult guardian present at the time, okay? So that's the age thing. The other thing is the membership thing. And that also became an issue where they said you're only allowed to be a guest member, if somebody who's more familiar with this, correct me, but you're only allowed to be a guest member at a divisional meeting once or twice. And after that, if you're not a member, you're not allowed inside. That was a policy, okay? That came about because on the national level, well, there was a division or region out on the East Coast that was very, very successful. They had a large membership and they put on a train show. And they made money off that train show, okay? And so it became self-perpetuating. Hey, we make lots of money on the train show. Somewhere along the line, a non-NMRA member became head of that organization. And then when the NMRA found out about that, there was somebody who actually wasn't an NMRA member was running this whole operation. They got upset, right? And so they started to be fussy about that whole thing. As if it's not obvious, I disagree with both of those positions, right? Disagree with the youth position, which I stated, I disagree with the non-member.
Well,
thing,
from
okay?
the non-member position, it's an insurance issue that has to be addressed, and that can be addressed other ways, but
Mhm.
the NMRA provides blanket insurance for anything that they sanction. So that's partially where that was coming from. It may not have been handled right, but it's mostly an insurance level liability for the NMRA in total, the group local and national.
So,
I'm not against having visitors, but I think we should encourage membership if they're gonna continue to participate.
yeah. So, let me just address the insurance issue, because the Hawkeye Club's faced the same issue, okay? We have blanket liability insurance. It doesn't just cover members, it covers anybody who's in our space. Okay? That's what it is. It's not all that expensive. We would absolutely do it. We gotta cover protect ourselves, okay? But you can get liability insurance that protects anybody who comes into your space. And we carry like $2 million, I think. So, that, you can get around that issue, okay? If you're gonna have you're gonna put a limit on it, you say, well, you gotta join, then you have to have somebody who's willing to say, that's the second or third time this person is here. Sit down with them and say, hey, I see you're here for the third time, okay? You must like this, right? Yeah, tell me what you like about it. Start a conversation, and somewhere along the line say, do you ever think about becoming a member? Here's what it costs you, okay? You have to be willing to have that conversation. You can't just have a gatekeeper that say, oh, let me see, your name, this is the third time, man, you're out. Okay, you can't do that. You gotta have somebody who's willing to approach the person, sit down, start a conversation with them, find out why they're there, and then, because that's the hook, okay, to get them to say, well, here's a form, and we really appreciate if you do this, okay? Again, we faced that issue at the Hawkeye Club, and we had a person who kept coming to our op sessions and would never want to be membered, and finally that person got told he wasn't really invited to come anymore because he's always there and he's using our beautiful layout, former layout, and now it's time to put up a shop. Okay. So those are things. I got just one more slide. So how do you evaluate whether an organization is inward or outward facing? You guys have done a really good job of this. But in thinking about this, and again, thinking about my experience with the Hawkeye Club, which started out as a totally inward facing organization and now has become way over on the outward facing side, okay? And the benefit of that is a $150,000 building sitting out there at the Johnson County Fairgrounds that is ours. We cannot be kicked out of it, okay? What about their website? How easy is the website to find? So I did a little experiment, because as the contact person for HMRC, I get these inquiries roughly one a week through our website, okay? There's a lot of different kinds of questions that come to me, but once a week I get an inquiry. When you use the website, and I'll tell you how in a minute, that message comes to me. How easy is it to even find the website? So, another story. About 3 or 4 months ago, I got a phone call from a guy named Chris, who lives in Clinton. And he called me up and he said, "Hi, I'm Chris. I'm a model railroader. I recently retired, and I'm working as a volunteer for the Clinton County Historical Society. And they want to build a model railroad exhibit in their building because Clinton was a big railroad town, okay? And I'm trying to find somebody who can help me do some stuff, and I can't find anybody. And I finally found you guys. So Mike and I took a trip to Clinton, met with the guy, saw his two home layouts that he is actually going to donate to the museum, saw his space at the museum, saw the stuff he's had, gave him some ideas, got him going, and he is continuing to do that, okay? So my first question, actually I asked him on the phone when he first said, well, you know, Clinton is a couple hours away from Iowa City, and did you know, what about the NMRA in your area? You got anybody? He says, I can't find anybody. I can't find anybody. So I tried Googling model railroading Cedar Rapids, okay? The Hawkeye Club was the second hit. The Hawkeye Club's website was the second hit, and the EID's website didn't show up until much, much later, okay? Part of that has to do with website design, and there is nobody in the Hawkeye Club who is a website designer. What we have up there right now, when we signed up with Google, they're our host. Not Google, GoDaddy. When we signed up with GoDaddy, we say we're gonna keep it local. GoDaddy has offices in Cedar Rapids. We kept it local. Signed up with GoDaddy. They said, and I was at that time the webmaster, such as it is. They said, so would you like some help designing your site? And we said, yeah, what's it gonna cost us? Nothing. As you sign up, we'll give you free assistance. Over the phone, with both of us on our own computers, this lady helped me design the Hawkeye site, okay? And she said, well, you really need to have this, and you really need to have that, okay? And we put that all onto the site, all right? So, how easy is the website to find? I get notifications all the time from organizations saying, we'll help you get more hits, you know, on your website. Well, you gotta pay for that service. And what they do is they know what the magic words are so that your stuff shows up in Google. I'm saying we didn't need that, okay? So, how easy is it the website to find? I'm gonna propose, and if Todd were here, I would still say this, because he's our webmaster, okay? That our site is set up as an inward-facing site, more than an outward-facing site. And does the site tell you the purpose of the organization? Well, it does on the EID site. Does it give you some idea of organizational activities? Not really, okay? Most important, it doesn't have a way to contact the organization. Now, on the EID site, you got the names of the officers, okay? And I suppose, and emails and maybe some phone numbers. But on the Hawkeye site, you have a button that says Contact Us. And if you click that Contact Us button, it opens up a screen and says, what is your message? Type your message here, okay? And hit send. And that pops into my mailbox. It's set up to pop into my mailbox, okay? And then I try to answer those within 24 hours. Get back to them and say, hi, I got your message. Here's how I can help you. I need more information, whatever the right way is, all right? If we want to be outward facing, part of what we have to do is to fix that problem. I think that's a problem, okay?
I would agree. I would say that people have to be able to find us once they know they want to look for us.
Right. I mean, and get some more members. So one of the ways we get new members in the Hawkeye Club is people come to the area. We've got a young guy, his name is Dan, he's 24, 25 years old. He moved to Cedar Rapids from Ohio, I think. And that's how he found us. And he showed up at one of our meetings one day, or maybe he emailed us first, and said, "Hi, I'm Dan, I want to get involved with this stuff." And he's been a really active member, right? And other people have done the same thing. We've got younger members who, that's how they're finding us. They're Googling Model Railroad, Eastern Iowa, and Hawkeye Club shows up high on the list.
Say one thing on that, you need to connect with other websites too.
Yes.
Like other organizations, 'cause like I also belong to NMRA,
Mm-hmm.
and on their website, they have clubs. And they have a listing, you know, and I think the only way they get on there, those people
Apply for that.
apply for
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So we need to rethink this, and it's part of it's not the only answer, it's part of the overall picture of how, if we're gonna become more outward facing. I think one of the first things we have to do is to look at what's on our website, decide what it is we want to put on our website. If we have internally the ability to do that ourselves, we can do it. If we don't, we need to find out what would it take for us. If we have to hire some student in computer science over at the university to help us do a website and pay them 50 or $100, we do it, okay? We're not starving for funds. And that would be a perfectly valuable, legal use of the funds, is to say we temporarily hired a web designer who designed a website to look like we want it to look, okay? Now, I know MCAR has some things on that, and so maybe MCOR needs to understand this too. I haven't looked at MCOR's website recently, so I will do that. But does MCOR, is their website inward facing or outward facing? When you pop the Hawkeye site, the first thing you see is a train, okay? And then there are all these other things that you can look at pictures, you can get more information about meetings, open houses, and of course there's that contact us button, and now the donate button, which is really valuable to us too. So I think we have to think about those kinds of things. That's all I really wanted to do today. This has been exactly what I was hoping it would be, of a lot of free flow of ideas and things. And Bob's got 3 pages of notes, and we've got the video of the whole thing. So the last question is, where do we go next?
So do we wanna make a formal proposal about the website? You motion?
Make a motion.
So what I recorded is, it is proposed that the EID website be reworked to be more outward facing, providing a way to contact us.
Mm-hmm.
Is that essentially what the motion wants to
To
be?
contact a responsive person. So that, again, you gotta identify that. The Hawkeye Club, when you hit contact us, we gotta set it up. Somebody had to volunteer to be the person who would get those emails and agree to respond to them in a reasonable period of time, okay? So that when somebody hits the contact us button, and I made a personal commitment, that I would respond to those emails within 24 hours. I take my iPad wherever I go, when I travel out of town, got internet where I'm at. Somebody, if I'm out of town and somebody contacts me, I still can get back to them. They don't have to be at home.
So we have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion? Personally, I think it's what we need to do. It's not unique to this organization either. You get in other basically volunteer type organizations like Toastmasters or anything else. You have to be able to reach out to people that want to find you. And once they find you, you have to be able to interact with them to bring them in. Otherwise, your organization is just gonna stagnate and people are it's just gonna fade away.
And I think how you phrase that is, you have to say, in our case, in the EID case, it has to say, do you have a question about model railroading? Contact us. And we can try that, and see how that works. If it gets overwhelming, then we can say, maybe we need to revise it, but I'm willing to start out with that. I'll get to your question in a second, Jim. The second thing, as I thought about not being able to find EID as easily as I find Hawkeye Club, there is no address on the EID website at all. Doesn't say where the EID is. But the way the Google search engines work is, when you say, you can go on there and say, find model railroad near me. And it says, where are you? Okay. Because it knows where you are, you turn on location finding, okay? And it says, oh, you're out in Sherwood, Oregon, which is where my son lives, okay? You're out in Sherwood, Oregon, and the nearest model railroad club that we can find to Sherwood is, and there's like 2 or 3, okay? So somehow we have to put that on there. So it may be that we need to put, I'm just off the top of my head saying, okay, the Eastern Iowa Division roughly covers the space between Clinton, Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, and Muscatine, Iowa, or whatever the whole, whatever it is, the closest big places, so that the search, the Google stuff behind the scenes says, okay, I have to draw this box, and that's where it is.
I'm trying to remember, I know we're not a landed organization, and we don't have a physical location,
Right.
but I think for purposes of MCOR and other, I think it's usually the clerk's address that anchors the club. If I remember my bylaws correctly, and I'd have to look it up again.
That's
And-
how Santa Fe does it.
Then the clerk has to agree to do that, and maybe the clerk is also the person who responds, but again, that's a thing that the clerk has to agree that I'm gonna do that, take on that role, and I'm gonna be able to,
Or
address
unless we
those
were
issues.
to designate a public relations officer as a volunteer position of some sort.
That's
but
another thing we
That's
could do.
another option.
Yeah, somebody wants to do that.
Hey, when I was superintendent a while back, I had one guy email me that was interested in the local area. And I said, yeah, okay, all right, we have this meeting like this. And his second question was, do you have a layout?
Mhm.
And I said, no. I said, we don't. I said, we go to different places, and I mentioned the Hawkeye Mountain Railroad Club. That was the last I heard from him. I think he went to go see you guys.
That could be, and that,
Which is fine, because it gets him to where he wants, right?
well, but, so the question is, the EID doesn't have a layout, but we know where all the layouts are, or many of the layouts are in the area, okay? I mean, it's how you respond to that, okay? And right now, the Hawkeye Club doesn't have a layout either, right? Will again sometime in the next 6 months, but right now, over there, it's almost all deconstructed. But, yeah, we can, again, you have to, before you answer, before you hit the respond button, you have to think, what does this guy really want, okay? And how do you respond to that question?
I second this. I think this is a good idea. Like I said, most of the websites you go to, if you've got a question, just contact us, and there's got some place to get there. They don't just give you an email address to ask a question.
Both the MCOR webpage and the EID webpage were designed 15 years ago?
Well, the EID webpage has been redesigned since that.
Okay.
Since Jenny left the webmaster position, okay?
Okay, well, I started the EID page when I moved here,
Yeah,
so,
It's passed through various hands since.
Yeah.
yeah, and so is the MCOR page, but it's still the old technology. There's new mechanisms
oh, yeah.
to
And I'm-
generate them, so. and-
Yeah, and I'm not the guy to ask, I'm a user, I'm not a designer. But we need to find somebody who is doing that, and we have to, I'm very sensitive to, not wanting to step on somebody's toes and say, we wanna do some things differently. You
gotta
can
keep-
step on mine all the
it's-
time, okay, you just tell me
The
full
web
shit.
pages, web pages need to be kept current.
Yep,
That's the issue, because without that currency, you
right.
lose interest.
And I don't know, I don't remember who the EID has their website through. With the Hawkeye Club through GoDaddy, if I need help, I can call their 800 number, and I have to sign into the website using the password and all that stuff. And as part of the contract, they will help us change things if we want to do that.
I like the
Might have
idea
been.
that was mentioned about getting somebody like from the computer science department, some kid, a few bucks and.
Well, the GoDaddy idea isn't bad either,
No,
especially
absolutely.
if there's constant maintenance that we can get help on doing. Because, like I said, the tools keep changing.
Yeah,
And keeping current with the tools is almost half the battle to keep the site current, so.
That may be a good idea, contacting them, because in the business college, they have consulting groups that are,
That's another option,
you
yeah.
know, so maybe in the computer science department, they'd have, you know, it's things that they get credit for.
Yep, yep. That's very true. When I was working, I used to tap into the engineering college all the time for students. I'd have a project, they would give me 600 hours of student time,
Wow.
okay? Because for them, that would be a team of three students, okay? 600 hours of time, up to 600 hours of time. They got credit for that, a 3-credit course. They got the experience, they could put it on their resume. I got the labor for that. And I use that a lot. I did dozens of projects that way. So, yeah, maybe, you're right, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the university. I mean, St. Ambrose probably has the same kind of thing.
Right.
And the other colleges up in Cedar Rapids, they probably have, you start asking around a little bit. And say, you know, we're looking for somebody who's willing to do this as a class project, okay? We can't pay you much, we might give you $50 or $100, but you get the academic credit for it. That's very possible. Okay, so that's one thing we're gonna do.
So we have a proposal on the table, it's been, proposed and seconded, do we wanna take a vote?
Yeah, okay, so, you wanna read it again?
So it is proposed that the EID website be reworked to be more outward facing, provide a way to contact a responsible person.
Who's gonna be responsible for doing that? You want it to be me? You want it to be Todd? You wanna do it?
Do you wanna take it on initially?
I'll take it on initially, you know, I'm gonna call a couple other people and say, hey, we voted on this, and then I'm responsible for getting it done, so what can you do to help?
I would suggest that you take it initially and we figure out how to go forward.
Right, so it should say the superintendent, the interim superintendent will.
It doesn't have to be the superintendent or.
It doesn't have to be, but
A designated person in charge.
It's something
They just
that we-
need to be in charge. and
Tom,
they
are you
can-
volunteering?
They can ask other people to, no, I'm not volunteering. But, you know, it doesn't have to be that person that responds all the time. He can dole it out to other people.
but I think we can just get the ball rolling and the leadership can work out the details and,
And when do we wanna have that done by?
You gotta get a hold of,
depends on what resources are available to us.
When, if I'm gonna be the person that does it, when do I have to deliver something?
I guess I'm open for suggestions on timetable.
I think it needs to be soon, but I think 3 months is probably not an unreasonable target.
So by March 1st,
Is that our next meeting timeframe?
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, or at least to have a status on it as to where we are.
Yeah, to
It
get
may
it
not be
started.
completed, but it,
Right. Okay, so read it again now with the,
Okay. Let me see if I got all this. It's proposed that the EID website be reworked to be more outward facing, providing a way to contact a responsive person. For the moment, that would be our interim superintendent. It is proposed that we accomplish this by March 1st,
okay.
2023.
So the interim superintendent will.
I wouldn't say
initiate.
accomplished, I would say,
Actionable progress.
Yeah,
That there will be,
actionable progress.
actionable progress, yeah. And the interim superintendent will.
I don't wanna nail you down to having it completed by March, but it's,
But I can start it.
It's like a model railroad.
Yeah, it's never done.
Never meant to be
are the
done.
bridge is built yet?
Never meant to be complete.
Yeah, never done.
You keep adjusting things as you go.
Yeah. Work in progress.
Is it a trestle or girdle?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Motion passes.
All right.
Do you want to take a quick break?
Is that what you wanna do? Should we take a quick break, and then I wanna see if there's any more ideas before we go to the table over there, so.
We've been at it for an hour and a half. I think we need a rest.
All right, let's take a 10